Paper 106, Universe Levels of Reality. It is not enough that the ascending mortal should know something of the relations of deity to the genesis and manifestations of cosmic reality. He should also comprehend something of the relationships existing between himself and the numerous levels of existential and experiential realities, of potential and actual realities. Man's terrestrial orientation, his cosmic insight, and his spiritual directionization are all enhanced by a better comprehension of universe realities and their techniques of interassociation, integration, and unification. The present grand universe and the emerging master universe are made up of many forms and phases of reality which, in turn, are existent on several levels of functional activity. These manifold existents and latents have been previously suggested in these papers, and they are now grouped for conceptual convenience in the following categories. 1. Incomplete finites. This is the present status of the ascending creatures of the grand universe, the present status of Urantia mortals. This level embraces creature existence from the planetary human up to but not including destiny attainers. It pertains to universes from early physical beginnings up to but not including settlement in light and life. This level constitutes the present periphery of creative activity in time and space. It appears to be moving outward from paradise for the closing of the present universe age, which will witness the grand universe attainment of light and life, will also and surely witness the appearance of some new order of developmental growth in the first outer space level. 2. Maximum finites. This is the present status of all experiential creatures who have attained destiny. Destiny is revealed within the scope of the present universe age. Even universes can attain to the maximum of status, both spiritually and physically. But the term maximum is itself a relative term. Maximum in relation to what? And that which is maximum, seemingly final, in the present universe age, may be no more than a real beginning in terms of the ages to come. Some phases of Havona appear to be on the maximum order. 3. Transcendentals. This superfinite level antecedently follows finite progression. It implies the pre-finite genesis of finite beginnings and the post-finite significance of all apparent finite endings, or destinies. Much of Paradise Havona appears to be on the transcendental order. 4. Ultimates. This level encompasses that which is of master universe significance and impinges on the destiny level of the completed master universe. Paradise Havona, especially the circuit of the Father's worlds, is in many respects of ultimate significance. 5. Co-absolutes. This level implies the projection of experientials upon a supermaster universe field of creative expression. 6. Absolutes. This level connotes the eternity presence of the 7 existential absolutes. It may also involve some degree of associative, experiential attainment, but if so, we do not understand how, perhaps through the contact potential of personality. 7. Infinity. This level is pre-existential and post-experiential. Unqualified unity of infinity is a hypothetical reality before all beginnings and after all destinies. These levels of reality are convenient compromise symbolizations of the present universe age and for the mortal perspective. There are a number of other ways of looking at reality from other than mortal perspective and from the standpoint of other universe ages. Thus it should be recognized that the concepts herewith presented are entirely relative in the sense of being conditioned and limited by 1. The limitations of mortal language, 2. The limitations of the mortal mind, 3. The limited development of the 7 superuniverses, 4. your ignorance of the 6 prime purposes of superuniverse development which do not pertain to the mortal ascent to paradise. 5. Your inability to grasp even a partial eternity viewpoint. 6. The impossibility of depicting cosmic evolution and destiny in relation to all universe ages, not just in regard to the present age of the evolutionary unfolding of the 7 superuniverses. 7. The inability of any creature to grasp what is really meant by pre-existentials or by post-experientials, that which lies before beginnings and after destinies. Reality growth is conditioned by the circumstances of the successive universe ages. The central universe underwent no evolutionary change in the Havona age, but in the present epochs of the superuniverse age, it is undergoing certain progressive changes induced by coordination with the evolutionary superuniverses. The 7 superuniverses now evolving will sometime attain the settled status of light and life, will attain the growth limit for the present universe age. But beyond doubt, the next age, the age of the first outer space level, will release the superuniverses from the destiny limitations of the present age. Repletion is continually being superimposed upon completion. These are some of the limitations which we encounter in attempting to present a unified concept of the cosmic growth of things, meanings, and values, and of their synthesis on ever-ascending levels of reality. 1. Primary association of finite functionals. The primary, or spirit origin phases of finite reality find immediate expression on creature levels as perfect personalities, and on universe levels as the perfect Havona creation. Even experiential deity is thus expressed in the spirit person of God the Supreme in Havona. But the secondary, evolutionary, time and matter-conditioned phases of the finite become cosmically integrated only as a result of growth and attainment. Eventually, all secondary or perfecting finites are to attain a level equal to that of primary perfection, but such destiny is subject to a time delay, a constitutive superuniverse qualification which is not genetically found in the central creation. We know of the existence of tertiary finites, but the technique of their integration is as yet unrevealed. This superuniverse time lag, this obstacle to perfection attainment, provides for creature participation in evolutionary growth. It thus makes it possible for the creature to enter into partnership with the Creator in the evolution of that selfsame creature. And during these times of expanding growth, the incomplete is correlated with the perfect through the ministry of God the Sevenfold. God the Sevenfold signifies the recognition by paradise deity of the barriers of time in the evolutionary universes of space. No matter how remote from paradise, how deep in space a material survival personality may take origin, God the Sevenfold will be found there present and engaged in the loving and merciful ministry of truth, beauty, and goodness to such an incomplete, struggling, and evolutionary creature. The divinity ministry of the Sevenfold reaches inward through the Eternal Son to the Paradise Father, and outward through the Ancients of Days to the Universe Fathers, the Creator Sons. Man, being personal and ascending by spiritual progression, finds the personal and spiritual divinity of the sevenfold deity, but there are other phases of the sevenfold which are not concerned with the progression of personality. The divinity aspects of this deity grouping are at present integrated in the liaison between the 7 master spirits and the conjoint actor, but they are destined to be eternally unified in the emerging personality of the Supreme Being. The other phases of the sevenfold deity are variously integrated in the present universe age, but all are likewise destined to be unified in the Supreme. The sevenfold in all phases is the source of the relative unity of the functional reality of the present grand universe. 2. Secondary, supreme finite integration. As God the Sevenfold functionally coordinates finite evolution, so does the Supreme Being eventually synthesize destiny attainment. The Supreme Being is the deity culmination of grand universe evolution, physical evolution around a spirit nucleus, and eventual dominance of the spirit nucleus over the encircling and whirling domains of physical evolution. And all of this takes place in accordance with the mandates of personality. Paradise personality in the highest sense, creator personality in the universe sense, mortal personality in the human sense, supreme personality in the culminating or experiential totaling sense. The concept of the Supreme must provide for the differential recognition of spirit person, evolutionary power, and power personality synthesis, the unification of evolutionary power with and its dominance by spirit personality. Spirit, in the last analysis, comes from paradise through Havona. Energy matter seemingly evolves in the depths of space and is organized as power by the children of the infinite Spirit in conjunction with the Creator sons of God. And all of this is experiential. It is a transaction in time and space, involving a wide range of living beings, including even creator divinities and evolutionary creatures. The power mastery of the creator divinities in the grand universe slowly expands to encompass the evolutionary settling and stabilizing of the time-space creations, and this is the flowering of the experiential power of God the Sevenfold. It encompasses the whole gamut of divinity attainment in time and space, from the adjuster bestowals of the Universal Father to the life bestowals of the Paradise Sons. This is earned power, demonstrated power, experiential power. It stands in contrast to the eternity power, the unfathomable power, the existential power of the Paradise deities. This experiential power, arising out of the divinity achievements of God the Sevenfold, itself manifests the cohesive qualities of divinity by synthesizing, totalizing, as the almighty power of the attained experiential mastery of the evolving creations. And this almighty power, in turn, finds spirit personality cohesion on the pilot sphere of the outer belt of Havona worlds, in union with the spirit personality of the Havona presence of God the Supreme. Thus does experiential deity culminate the long evolutionary struggle by investing the power product of time and space with the spirit presence and divine personality resident in the central creation. Thus does the Supreme Being eventually attain to the embrace of all of everything evolving in time and space, while investing these qualities with spirit personality. Since creatures, even mortals, are personality participants in this majestic transaction, so do they certainly attain the capacity to know the Supreme and to perceive the Supreme as true children of such an evolutionary deity. Michael of Nebadon is like the Paradise Father because he shares his paradise perfection. So will evolutionary mortals sometime attain to kinship with the experiential Supreme, for they will truly share his evolutionary perfection. God the Supreme is experiential, therefore is he completely experienceable. The existential realities of the seven absolutes are not perceivable by the technique of experience. Only the personality realities of the Father, Son, and Spirit can be grasped by the personality of the finite creature in the prayer-worship attitude. Within the completed power-personality synthesis of the Supreme Being, there will be associated all of the absoluteness of the several triodities which could be so associated, and this majestic personality of evolution will be experientially attainable and understandable by all finite personalities. When ascenders attain the postulated seventh stage of spirit existence, they will therein experience the realization of a new meaning value of the absoluteness and infinity of the triodities, as such is revealed on sub-absolute levels in the Supreme Being, who is experienceable. But the attainment of these stages of maximum development will probably await the coordinate settling of the entire grand universe in light and life. 3. Transcendental tertiary reality association. The Absonite architects eventuate the plan. The supreme creators bring it into existence. The Supreme Being will consummate its fullness as it was time created by the supreme creators, and as it was space forecast by the master architects. During the present universe age, the administrative coordination of the master universe is the function of the architects of the master universe. But the appearance of the Almighty Supreme at the termination of the present universe age will signify that the evolutionary finite has attained the first stage of experiential destiny. This happening will certainly lead to the completed function of the first experiential trinity, the union of the supreme creators, the Supreme Being, and the architects of the master universe. This trinity is destined to effect the further evolutionary integration of the master creation. The Paradise Trinity is truly one of infinity, and no trinity can possibly be infinite that does not include this original trinity. But the original trinity is an eventuality of the exclusive association of absolute deities. Sub-absolute beings had nothing to do with this primal association. The subsequently appearing and experiential trinities embrace the contributions of even creature personalities. Certainly this is true of the Trinity Ultimate, where in the very presence of the Master Creator Sons among the Supreme Creator members thereof betokens the concomitant presence of actual and bona fide creature experience within this Trinity association. The first experiential Trinity provides for group attainment of ultimate eventualities. Group associations are enabled to anticipate, even to transcend, individual capacities. And this is true even beyond the finite level. In the ages to come, after the 7 superuniverses have been settled in light and life, the core of the finality will doubtless be promulgating the purposes of the Paradise deities as they are dictated by the Trinity Ultimate, and as they are power personality unified in the Supreme Being. Throughout all the gigantic universe developments of past and future eternity, we detect the expansion of the comprehensible elements of the Universal Father. As the I Am, we philosophically postulate his permeation of total infinity, but no creature is able experientially to encompass such a postulate. As the universes expand, and as gravity and love reach out into time-organizing space, we are able to understand more and more of the first source and center. We observe gravity action penetrating the space presence of the unqualified absolute, and we detect spirit creatures evolving and expanding within the divinity presence of the deity absolute, while both cosmic and spirit evolution are by mind and experience unifying on finite deity levels as the Supreme Being, and are coordinating on transcendental levels as the Trinity Ultimate. 4. Ultimate Quartan Integration. The Paradise Trinity certainly coordinates in the ultimate sense, but functions in this respect as a self-qualified absolute. The Experiential Trinity Ultimate coordinates the transcendental as a transcendental. In the eternal future, this experiential trinity will, through augmenting unity, further activate the eventuating presence of ultimate deity. While the Trinity Ultimate is destined to coordinate the master creation, God the Ultimate is the transcendental power personalization of the directionization of the entire master universe. The completed eventuation of the ultimate implies the completion of the master creation and connotes the full emergence of this transcendental deity. What changes will be inaugurated by the full emergence of the ultimate we do not know. But as the Supreme is now spiritually and personally present in Havona, so also is the ultimate there present, but in the absonite and superpersonal sense. And you have been informed of the existence of the qualified vicegerents of the ultimate, though you have not been informed of their present whereabouts or function. But irrespective of the administrative repercussions attendant upon the emergence of ultimate deity, the personal values of his transcendental divinity will be experienceable by all personalities who have been participants in the actualization of this deity level. Transcendence of the finite can lead only to ultimate attainment. God the ultimate exists in transcendence of time and space, but is nonetheless sub-absolute, notwithstanding inherent capacity for functional association with absolutes. 5. Co-absolute, or fifth phase association. The ultimate is the apex of transcendental reality, even as the supreme is the capstone of evolutionary experiential reality. And the actual emergence of these two experiential deities lays the foundation for the second experiential trinity. This is the Trinity Absolute, the union of God the Supreme, God the Ultimate, and the unrevealed consummator of universe destiny. And this Trinity has theoretical capacity to activate the absolutes of potentiality, deity, universal, and unqualified. But the completed formation of this Trinity Absolute could take place only after the completed evolution of the entire Master Universe, from Havona to the fourth and outermost space level. It should be made clear that these experiential trinities are correlative, not only of the personality qualities of experiential divinity, but also of all the other-than-personal qualities which characterize their attained deity unity. While this presentation deals primarily with the personal phases of the unification of the cosmos, it is nonetheless true that the impersonal aspects of the universe of universes are likewise destined to undergo unification, as is illustrated by the power-personality synthesis now going on in connection with the evolution of the Supreme Being. The spirit-personal qualities of the Supreme are inseparable from the power prerogatives of the Almighty, and both are complemented by the unknown potential of Supreme Mind. Neither can God the Ultimate, as a person, be considered apart from the other-than-personal aspects of ultimate deity. And on the absolute level, the deity and the unqualified absolutes are inseparable and indistinguishable in the presence of the universal absolute. Trinities are, in and of themselves, not personal, but neither do they contravene personality. Rather do they encompass it and correlate it, in a collective sense, with impersonal functions. Trinities are, then, always deity reality, but never personality reality. The personality aspects of a trinity are inherent in its individual members, and as individual persons they are not that trinity. Only as a collective are they trinity. That is trinity. But always is trinity inclusive of all encompassed deity. Trinity is deity unity. The three absolutes, deity, universal, and unqualified, are not trinity, for all are not deity. Only the deified can become trinity. All other associations are triunities or triodities. 6. Absolute or sixth phase integration. The present potential of the Master Universe is hardly absolute, though it may well be near ultimate, and we deem it impossible to achieve the full revelation of absolute meaning values within the scope of a sub-absolute cosmos. We therefore encounter considerable difficulty in attempting to conceive of a total expression of the limitless possibilities of the three absolutes, or even in attempting to visualize the experiential personalization of God the Absolute on the now impersonal level of the Deity Absolute. The space stage of the Master Universe seems to be adequate for the actualization of the Supreme Being, for the formation and full function of the Trinity Ultimate, for the eventuation of God the Ultimate, and even for the inception of the Trinity Absolute. But our concepts regarding the full function of this second experiential Trinity seem to imply something beyond even the wide-spreading master universe. If we assume a cosmos infinite, some illimitable cosmos on beyond the master universe, and if we conceive that the final developments of the Absolute Trinity will take place out on such a super-ultimate stage of action, then it becomes possible to conjecture that the completed function of the Trinity Absolute will achieve final expression in the creations of infinity, and will consummate the absolute actualization of all potentials. The integration and association of ever-enlarging segments of reality will approach absoluteness of status proportional to the inclusion of all reality within the segments thus associated. Stated otherwise, the Trinity Absolute, as its name implies, is really absolute in total function. We do not know how an absolute function can achieve total expression on a qualified, limited, or otherwise restricted basis. Hence, we must assume that any such totality function will be unconditioned in potential. And it would also appear that the unconditioned would also be unlimited, at least from a qualitative standpoint, though we are not so sure regarding quantitative relationships. Of this, however, we are certain. While the existential paradise trinity is infinite, and while the experiential trinity ultimate is sub-infinite, the Trinity Absolute is not so easy to classify. Though experiential in genesis and constitution, it definitely impinges upon the existential absolutes of potentiality. While it is hardly profitable for the human mind to seek to grasp such faraway and superhuman concepts, we would suggest that the eternity action of the Trinity Absolute may be thought of as culminating in some kind of experientialization of the absolutes of potentiality. This would appear to be a reasonable conclusion with respect to the universal absolute, if not the unqualified absolute. At least we know that the universal absolute is not only static and potential, but also associative in the total deity sense of those words. But in regard to the conceivable values of divinity and personality, these conjectured happenings imply the personalization of the deity absolute, and the appearance of those superpersonal values and those ultra-personal meanings inherent in the personality completion of God the Absolute, the third and last of the experiential deities. 7. Finality of destiny. Some of the difficulties in forming concepts of infinite reality integration are inherent in the fact that all such ideas embrace something of the finality of universal development, some kind of an experiential realization of all that could ever be, and it is inconceivable that quantitative infinity could ever be completely realized in finality. Always there must remain unexplored possibilities in the three potential absolutes, which no quantity of experiential development could ever exhaust. Eternity itself, though absolute, is not more than absolute. Even a tentative concept of final integration is inseparable from the fruitions of unqualified eternity, and is, therefore, practically non-realizable at any conceivable future time. Destiny is established by the volitional act of the deities, who constitute the Paradise Trinity. Destiny is established in the vastness of the three great potentials whose absoluteness encompasses the possibilities of all future development. Destiny is probably consummated by the act of the consummator of universe destiny, and this act is probably involved with the supreme and the ultimate in the Trinity Absolute. Any experiential destiny can be at least partially comprehended by experiencing creatures, but a destiny which impinges on infinite existentials is hardly comprehensible. Finality destiny is an existential experiential attainment which appears to involve the deity absolute, but the deity absolute stands in eternity relationship with the unqualified absolute, by virtue of the universal absolute, and these three absolutes, experiential in possibility, are actually existential and more, being limitless, timeless, spaceless, boundless, and measureless, truly infinite. The improbability of goal attainment does not, however, prevent philosophical theorizing about such hypothetical destinies. The actualization of the deity absolute as an attainable absolute God may be practically impossible of realization. Nevertheless, such a finality fruition remains a theoretical possibility. The involvement of the unqualified absolute in some inconceivable cosmos infinite may be measurelessly remote in the futurity of endless eternity, but such a hypothesis is nonetheless valid. Mortals, Morontians, spirits, finaliters, transcendentalers, and others, together with the universes themselves and all other phases of reality, certainly do have a potentially final destiny that is absolute in value. But we doubt that any being or universe will ever completely attain all of the aspects of such a destiny. No matter how much you may grow in Father comprehension, your mind will always be staggered by the unrevealed infinity of the Father I Am, the unexplored vastness of which will always remain unfathomable and incomprehensible throughout all the cycles of eternity. No matter how much of God you may attain, there will always remain much more of Him, the existence of which you will not even suspect. And we believe that this is just as true on transcendental levels as it is in the domains of finite existence. The quest for God is endless. Such inability to attain God in a final sense should in no manner discourage universe creatures. Indeed, you can and do attain deity levels of the sevenfold, the supreme, and the ultimate, which mean to you what the infinite realization of God the Father means to the eternal Son and to the conjoint actor in their absolute status of eternity existence. Far from harassing the creature, the infinity of God should be the supreme assurance that throughout all endless futurity, an ascending personality will have before him the possibilities of personality development and deity association, which even eternity will neither exhaust nor terminate. To finite creatures of the grand universe, the concept of the master universe seems to be well nigh infinite. But doubtless the absentite architects thereof perceive its relatedness to future and unimagined developments within the unending I Am. Even space itself is but an ultimate condition, a condition of qualification within the relative absoluteness of the quiet zones of mid-space. At the inconceivably distant future eternity moment of the final completion of the entire master universe, no doubt we will all look back upon its entire history as only the beginning, simply the creation of certain finite and transcendental foundations for even greater and more enthralling metamorphoses in uncharted infinity. At such a future eternity moment, the master universe will still seem youthful. Indeed, it will be always young in the face of the limitless possibilities of never-ending eternity. The improbability of infinite destiny attainment does not in the least prevent the entertainment of ideas about such destiny, and we do not hesitate to say that if the three absolute potentials could ever become completely actualized, it would be possible to conceive of the final integration of total reality. This developmental realization is predicated on the completed actualization of the unqualified, universal, and deity absolutes, the three potentialities whose union constitutes the latency of the I Am, the suspended realities of eternity, the abeyant possibilities of all futurity, and more. Such eventualities are rather remote, to say the least. Nevertheless, in the mechanisms, personalities, and associations of the three trinities, we believe we detect the theoretical possibility of the reuniting of the 7 absolute phases of the Father I Am. And this brings us face to face with the concept of the threefold Trinity encompassing the Paradise Trinity of existential status and the 2 subsequently appearing Trinities of experiential nature and origin. 8. The Trinity of Trinities. The nature of the Trinity of Trinities is difficult to portray to the human mind. It is the actual summation of the entirety of experiential infinity, as such is manifested in a theoretical infinity of eternity realization. In the Trinity of Trinities, the experiential infinite attains to identity with the existential infinite, and both are as one in the pre-experiential, pre-existential I Am. The Trinity of Trinities is the final expression of all that is implied in the 15 triunities and associated triodities. Finalities are difficult for relative beings to comprehend, be they existential or experiential. Therefore, must they always be presented as relativities. The Trinity of Trinities exists in several phases. It contains possibilities, probabilities, and inevitabilities that stagger the imaginations of beings far above the human level. It has implications that are probably unsuspected by the celestial philosophers, for its implications are in the triunities, and the triunities are, in the last analysis, unfathomable. There are a number of ways in which the Trinity of Trinities can be portrayed. We elect to present the 3-level concept, which is as follows. 1. The level of the 3 Trinities. 2. The level of experiential deity. 3. The level of the I Am. These are levels of increasing unification. Actually, the Trinity of Trinities is the first level, while the second and third levels are unification derivatives of the first. The first level. On this initial level of association, it is believed that the 3 Trinities function as perfectly synchronized, though distinct, groupings of deity personalities. 1. The Paradise Trinity. The association of the 3 Paradise deities, Father, Son, and Spirit. It should be remembered that the Paradise Trinity implies a threefold function, an absolute function, a transcendental function, Trinity of ultimacy, and a finite function, Trinity of supremacy. The Paradise Trinity is any and all of these at any and all times. 2. The Ultimate Trinity. This is the deity association of the Supreme Creators, God the Supreme, and the architects of the Master Universe. While this is an adequate presentation of the divinity aspects of this Trinity, it should be recorded that there are other phases of this Trinity which, however, appear to be perfectly coordinating with the divinity aspects. 3. The Absolute Trinity. This is the grouping of God the Supreme, God the Ultimate, and the consummator of universe destiny in regard to all divinity values. Certain other phases of this triune grouping have to do with other than divinity values in the expanding cosmos, but these are unifying with the divinity phases, just as the power and the personality aspects of the experiential deities are now in process of experiential synthesis. The association of these 3 Trinities in the Trinity of Trinities provides for a possible unlimited integration of reality. This grouping contains causes, intermediates and finals, inceptors, realizers, and consummators, beginnings, existences, and destinies. The Father-Son partnership has become Son-Spirit, and then Spirit Supreme, and on to Supreme Ultimate and Ultimate Absolute, even to Absolute and Father Infinite, the completion of the cycle of reality. Likewise, in other phases not so immediately concerned with divinity and personality, does the first great source and center self-realize the limitlessness of reality around the circle of eternity, from the absoluteness of self-existence through the endlessness of self-revelation to the finality of self-realization, from the absolute of existentials to the finality of experientials. The second level. The coordination of the three trinities inevitably involves the associative union of the experiential deities who are genetically associated with these trinities. The nature of this second level has been sometimes presented as 1. The Supreme. This is the deity consequence of the unity of the Paradise Trinity in experiential liaison with the creator-creative children of the Paradise deities. The Supreme is the deity embodiment of the completion of the first stage of finite evolution. 2. The Ultimate. This is the deity consequence of the eventuated unity of the second Trinity, the transcendental and absonite personification of divinity. The ultimate consists in a variably regarded unity of many qualities, and the human conception thereof would do well to include at least those phases of ultimacy which are control-directing, personally experienceable, and tensionally unifying. But there are many other unrevealed aspects of the eventuated deity. While the ultimate and the supreme are comparable, they are not identical. Neither is the ultimate merely an amplification of the supreme. 3. The Absolute. There are many theories held as to the character of the third member of the second level of the Trinity of Trinities. God the Absolute is undoubtedly involved in this association as the personality consequence of the final function of the Trinity Absolute. Yet the Deity Absolute is an existential reality of eternity status. The concept difficulty regarding this third member is inherent in the fact that the presupposition of such a membership really implies just one absolute. Theoretically, if such an event could take place, we should witness the experiential unification of the three absolutes as one. And we are taught that, in infinity and existentially, there is one absolute. While it is least clear as to who this third member can be, it is often postulated that such may consist of the deity, universal and unqualified absolutes in some form of unimagined liaison and cosmic manifestation. Certainly, the Trinity of Trinities could hardly attain to complete function short of the full unification of the three absolutes, and the three absolutes can hardly be unified short of the complete realization of all infinite potentials. It will probably represent a minimum distortion of truth if the third member of the Trinity of Trinities is conceived as the universal absolute, provided this conception envisions the universal not only as static and potential, but also as associative. But we still do not perceive the relationship to the creative and evolutional aspects of the function of total deity. Though a completed concept of the Trinity of Trinities is difficult to form, a qualified concept is not so difficult. If the second level of the Trinity of Trinities is conceived as essentially personal, it becomes quite possible to postulate the union of God the Supreme, God the Ultimate, and God the Absolute as the personal repercussion of the union of the personal trinities who are ancestral to these experiential deities. We venture the opinion that these three experiential deities will certainly unify on the second level as the direct consequence of the growing unity of their ancestral and causative trinities who constitute the first level. The first level consists of three trinities. The second level exists as the personality association of experiential evolved, experiential eventuated, and experiential existential deity personalities. And regardless of any conceptual difficulty in understanding the complete Trinity of Trinities, the personal association of these three deities on the second level has become manifest to our own universe age in the phenomenon of the deitization of Majeston, who was actualized on this second level by the deity absolute, acting through the ultimate and in response to the initial creative mandate of the Supreme Being. The third level. In an unqualified hypothesis of the second level of the Trinity of Trinities, there is embraced the correlation of every phase of every kind of reality that is, or was, or could be, in the entirety of infinity. The Supreme Being is not only spirit, but also mind, and power, and experience. The ultimate is all this and much more, while in the conjoined concept of the oneness of the deity, universal, and unqualified absolutes, there is included the absolute finality of all reality realization. In the union of the supreme, ultimate, and the complete absolute, there could occur the functional reassembly of those aspects of infinity which were originally segmentalized by the I Am, and which resulted in the appearance of the seven absolutes of infinity. Though the universe philosophers deem this to be a most remote probability, still we often ask this question: if the second level of the Trinity of Trinities could ever achieve Trinity unity, what then would transpire as a consequence of such deity unity? We do not know, but we are confident that it would lead directly to the realization of the I Am as an experiential attainable. From the standpoint of personal beings, it could mean that the unknowable I Am had become experienceable as the Father Infinite. What these absolute destinies might mean from a non-personal standpoint is another matter, and one which only eternity could possibly clarify. But as we view these remote eventualities as personal creatures, we deduce that the final destiny of all personalities is the final knowing of the universal Father of these selfsame personalities. As we philosophically conceive of the I Am in past eternity, He is alone. There is none beside Him. Looking forward into future eternity, we do not see that the I Am could possibly change as an existential, but we are inclined to forecast a vast experiential difference. Such a concept of the I Am implies full self-realization. It embraces that limitless galaxy of personalities who have become volitional participants in the self-revelation of the I Am, and who will remain eternally as absolute volitional parts of the totality of infinity, final sons of the Absolute Father. 9. Existential infinite unification. In the concept of the Trinity of Trinities, we postulate the possible experiential unification of limitless reality, and we sometimes theorize that all this may happen in the utter remoteness of far distant eternity. But there is nonetheless an actual and present unification of infinity in this very age, as in all past and future universe ages. Such unification is existential in the Paradise Trinity. Infinity unification, as an experiential reality, is unthinkably remote. But an unqualified unity of infinity now dominates the present moment of universe existence, and unites the divergencies of all reality with an existential majesty that is absolute. When finite creatures attempt to conceive of infinite unification on the finality levels of consummated eternity, they are face to face with intellect limitations inherent in their finite existences. Time, space, and experience constitute barriers to creature concept, and yet, without time, apart from space, and except for experience, no creature could achieve even a limited comprehension of universe reality. Without time sensitivity, no evolutionary creature could possibly perceive the relations of sequence. Without space perception, no creature could fathom the relations of simultaneity. Without experience, no evolutionary creature could even exist. Only the seven absolutes of infinity really transcend experience, and even these may be experiential in certain phases. Time, space, and experience are man's greatest aids to relative reality perception, and yet his most formidable obstacles to complete reality perception. Mortals and many other universe creatures find it necessary to think of potentials as being actualized in space and evolving to fruition in time. But this entire process is a time-space phenomenon which does not actually take place on paradise and in eternity. On the absolute level, there is neither time nor space. All potentials may be there perceived as actuals. The concept of the unification of all reality, be it in this or any other universe age, is basically twofold: existential and experiential. Such a unity is in process of experiential realization in the Trinity of Trinities. But the degree of the apparent actualization of this threefold Trinity is directly proportional to the disappearance of the qualifications and imperfections of reality in the cosmos. But total integration of reality is unqualifiedly and eternally and existentially present in the Paradise Trinity, within which, at this very universe moment, infinite reality is absolutely unified. The paradox created by the experiential and the existential viewpoints is inevitable, and is predicated in part on the fact that the Paradise Trinity and the Trinity of Trinities are each an eternity relationship which mortals can only perceive as a time-space relativity. The human concept of the gradual, experiential actualization of the Trinity of Trinities, the time viewpoint, must be supplemented by the additional postulate that this is already a factualization, the eternity viewpoint. But how can these two viewpoints be reconciled? To finite mortals, we suggest the acceptance of the truth that the Paradise Trinity is the existential unification of infinity, and that the inability to detect the actual presence and completed manifestation of the experiential Trinity of Trinities is in part due to reciprocal distortion because of 1. The limited human viewpoint, the inability to grasp the concept of unqualified eternity; 2. The imperfect human status, the remoteness from the absolute level of experientials; 3. The purpose of human existence, the fact that mankind is designed to evolve by the technique of experience, and therefore must be inherently and constitutively dependent on experience. Only an absolute can be both existential and experiential. The Universal Father in the Paradise Trinity is the I Am of the Trinity of Trinities, and the failure to experience the Father as infinite is due to finite limitations. The concept of the existential, solitary, pre-Trinity, non-attainable I Am, and the postulate of the experiential, post-Trinity of Trinities, and attainable I Am are one and the same hypothesis. No actual change has taken place in the infinite. All apparent developments are due to increased capacities for reality reception and cosmic appreciation. The I Am, in the final analysis, must exist before all existentials and after all experientials. While these ideas may not clarify the paradoxes of eternity and infinity in the human mind, they should at least stimulate such finite intellects to grapple anew with these never-ending problems which will continue to intrigue you on Salvington, and later as finaliters, and on throughout the unending future of your eternal careers in the wide-spreading universes. Sooner or later, all universe personalities begin to realize that the final quest of eternity is the endless exploration of infinity, the never-ending voyage of discovery into the absoluteness of the first source and center. Sooner or later, we all become aware that all creature growth is proportional to Father identification. we arrive at the understanding that living the will of God is the eternal passport to the endless possibility of infinity itself. Mortals will sometime realize that success in the quest of the infinite is directly proportional to the achievement of Father-likeness, and that in this universe age, the realities of the Father are revealed within the qualities of divinity. And these qualities of divinity are personally appropriated by universe creatures in the experience of living divinely. And to live divinely means actually to live the will of God. To material, evolutionary, finite creatures, a life predicated on the living of the Father's will leads directly to the attainment of spirit supremacy in the personality arena, and brings such creatures one step nearer the comprehension of the Father infinite. Such a Father life is one predicated on truth, sensitive to beauty, and dominated by goodness. Such a God-knowing person is inwardly illuminated by worship, and outwardly devoted to the wholehearted service of the universal brotherhood of all personalities, a service ministry which is filled with mercy and motivated by love, while all these life qualities are unified in the evolving personality on ever-ascending levels of cosmic wisdom, self-realization, God-finding, and Father worship.
Presented by a Melchizedek of Nebadon.
Paper 107. Origin and Nature of Thought Adjusters. Although the Universal Father is personally resident on Paradise, at the very center of the universes, he is also actually present on the worlds of space in the minds of his countless children of time, for he indwells them as the mystery monitors. The Eternal Father is at one and the same time farthest removed from, and most intimately associated with, his planetary mortal sons. The adjusters are the actuality of the Father's love incarnate in the souls of men. They are the veritable promise of man's eternal career imprisoned within the mortal mind. They are the essence of man's perfected finaliter personality, which he can foretaste in time as he progressively masters the divine technique of achieving the living of the Father's will, step by step, through the ascension of universe upon universe, until he actually attains the divine presence of his Paradise Father. God, having commanded man to be perfect, even as he is perfect, has descended as the adjuster to become man's experiential partner in the achievement of the supernal destiny which has been thus ordained. The fragment of God which indwells the mind of man is the absolute and unqualified assurance that man can find the Universal Father in association with this divine adjuster, which came forth from God to find man and sonship him even in the days of the flesh. Any mortal who has seen a Creator Son has seen the Universal Father, and he who is indwelt by a divine adjuster is indwelt by the Paradise Father. Every mortal who is consciously or unconsciously following the leading of his indwelling adjuster is living in accordance with the will of God. Consciousness of adjuster presence is consciousness of God's presence. Eternal fusion of the adjuster with the evolutionary soul of man is the factual experience of eternal union with God as a universe associate of deity. It is the adjuster who creates within man that unquenchable yearning and incessant longing to be like God, to attain paradise, and there, before the actual person of deity, to worship the infinite source of the divine gift. The adjuster is the living presence which actually links the mortal son with his Paradise Father and draws him nearer and nearer to the Father. The adjuster is our compensatory equalization of the enormous universe tension which is created by the distance of man's removal from God and by the degree of his partiality in contrast with the universality of the Eternal Father. The adjuster is an absolute essence of an infinite being imprisoned within the mind of a finite creature which, depending on the choosing of such a mortal, can eventually consummate this temporary union of God and man and veritably actualize a new order of being for unending universe service. The adjuster is the divine universe reality, which factualizes the truth that God is man's father. The adjuster is man's infallible cosmic compass, always and unerringly pointing the soul Godward. On the evolutionary worlds, will creatures traverse three general developmental stages of being. From the arrival of the adjuster to comparative full growth, about 20 years of age on Urantia, the monitors are sometimes designated thought changers. From this time to the attainment of the age of discretion, about 40 years, the mystery monitors are called thought adjusters. From the attainment of discretion to deliverance from the flesh, they are often referred to as thought controllers. These three phases of mortal life have no connection with the three stages of adjuster progress in mind duplication and soul evolution. 1. Origin of thought adjusters. Since thought adjusters are of the essence of original deity, no one may presume to discourse authoritatively upon their nature and origin. I can only impart the traditions of Salvington and the beliefs of Uversa. I can only explain how we regard these mystery monitors and their associated entities throughout the grand universe. Though there are diverse opinions regarding the mode of the bestowal of thought adjusters, there exist no such differences concerning their origin. All are agreed that they proceed direct from the Universal Father, the first source and center. They are not created beings. They are fragmentized entities constituting the factual presence of the infinite God. Together with their many unrevealed associates, the adjusters are undiluted and unmixed divinity, unqualified and unattenuated parts of deity. They are of God, and as far as we are able to discern, they are God. As to the time of their beginning separate existences apart from the absoluteness of the first source and center, we do not know. Neither do we know their number. We know very little concerning their careers until they arrive on the planets of time to indwell human minds. But from that time on, we are more or less familiar with their cosmic progressions up to and including the consummation of their triune destinies. Attainment of personality by fusion with some mortal ascender, attainment of personality by fiat of the Universal Father, or liberation from the known assignments of thought adjusters. Although we do not know, we presume that adjusters are being constantly individualized as the universe enlarges, and as the candidates for adjuster fusion increase in numbers. But it may be equally possible that we are in error in attempting to assign a numerical magnitude to the adjusters. Like God Himself, these fragments of His unfathomable nature may be existentially infinite. The technique of the origin of the thought adjusters is one of the unrevealed functions of the Universal Father. We have every reason to believe that none of the other absolute associates of the first source and center have aught to do with the production of Father fragments. Adjusters are simply and eternally the divine gifts. They are of God and from God, and they are like God. In their relationship to fusion creatures, they reveal a supernal love and spiritual ministry that is profoundly confirmative of the declaration that God is spirit. But there is much that takes place in addition to this transcendent ministry that has never been revealed to Urantia mortals. Neither do we fully understand just what really transpires when the Universal Father gives of Himself to be a part of the personality of a creature of time. Nor has the ascending progression of the Paradise Finaliters as yet disclosed the full possibilities inherent in this supernal partnership of man and God. In the last analysis, the Father fragments must be the gift of the absolute God to those creatures whose destiny encompasses the possibility of the attainment of God as absolute. As the Universal Father fragmentizes His pre-personal deity, so does the Infinite Spirit individuate portions of His pre-mind spirit to indwell and actually to fuse with the evolutionary souls of the surviving mortals of the Spirit Fusion series. But the nature of the eternal Son is not thus fragmentable. The spirit of the original Son is either diffuse or discretely personal. Sun-fused creatures are united with individualized bestowals of the spirit of the Creator Sons of the Eternal Son. 2. Classification of adjusters. Adjusters are individuated as virgin entities, and all are destined to become either liberated, fused, or personalized monitors. We understand that there are 7 orders of thought adjusters, although we do not altogether comprehend these divisions. We often refer to the different orders as follows. 1. Virgin adjusters. Those serving on their initial assignment in the minds of evolutionary candidates for eternal survival. Mystery monitors are eternally uniform in divine nature. They are also uniform in experiential nature as they first go out from Divinington. Subsequent experiential differentiation is the result of actual experience in universe ministry. 2. Advanced adjusters. Those who have served 1 or more seasons with will creatures on worlds where the final fusion takes place between the identity of the creature of time and an individualized portion of the spirit of the local universe manifestation of the third source and center. 3. Supreme adjusters. Those monitors that have served in the adventure of time on the evolutionary worlds, but whose human partners for some reason declined eternal survival, and those that have been subsequently assigned to other adventures in other mortals on other evolving worlds. A supreme adjuster, though no more divine than a virgin monitor, has had more experience, can do things in the human mind which a less experienced adjuster could not do. 4. Vanished adjusters. Here occurs a break in our efforts to follow the careers of the mystery monitors. There is a 4th stage of service about which we are not sure. The Melchizedeks teach that the 4th stage adjusters are on detached assignments, roaming the universe of universes. The solitary messengers are inclined to believe that they are at one with the first source and center, enjoying a period of refreshing association with the Father himself. And it is entirely possible that an adjuster could be roaming the master universe simultaneously with being at one with the omnipresent Father. 5. Liberated adjusters. Those mystery monitors that have been eternally liberated from the service of time for the mortals of the evolving spheres. What functions may be theirs, we do not know. 6. Fused adjusters. Finaliters. Those who have become one with the ascending creatures of the superuniverses, the eternity partners of the time ascenders of the paradise core of the finality. Thought adjusters ordinarily become fused with the ascending mortals of time, and with such surviving mortals, they are registered in and out of Ascendington. They follow the course of ascendant beings. Upon fusion with the ascending evolutionary soul, it appears that the adjuster translates from the absolute existential level of the universe to the finite experiential level of functional association with an ascending personality. While retaining all of the character of the existential divine nature, a fused adjuster becomes indissolubly linked with the ascending career of a surviving mortal. 7. Personalized adjusters. Those who have served with the incarnated paradise sons, together with many who have achieved unusual distinction during the mortal indwelling, but whose subjects rejected survival. We have reasons for believing that such adjusters are personalized on the recommendations of the Ancients of Days of the superuniverse of their assignment. There are many ways in which these mysterious God fragments can be classified, according to universe assignment, by the measure of success in the indwelling of an individual mortal, or even by the racial ancestry of the mortal candidate for fusion. 3. The Divinington Home of Adjusters. All universe activities related to the dispatch, management, direction, and return of the mystery monitors from service in all of the 7 super-universes seem to be centered on the sacred sphere of Divinington. As far as I know, none but adjusters and other entities of the Father have been on that sphere. It seems likely that numerous unrevealed pre-personal entities share Divinington as a home sphere with the adjusters. We conjecture that these fellow entities may in some manner be associated with the present and future ministry of the mystery monitors, but we really do not know. When thought adjusters return to the Father, they go back to the realm of supposed origin, Divinington, and probably as a part of this experience there is actual contact with the Father's paradise personality as well as with the specialized manifestation of the Father's divinity which is reported to be situated on this secret sphere. Although we know something of all the 7 secret spheres of paradise, we know less of Divinington than of the others. Beings of high spiritual orders receive only 3 divine injunctions, and they are: 1. Always to show adequate respect for the experience and endowments of their seniors and superiors. 2. Always to be considerate of the limitations and inexperience of their juniors and subordinates. 3. Never to attempt a landing on the shores of Divinington. I have often reflected that it would be quite useless for me to go to Divinington. I probably should be unable to see any resident beings except such as the personalized adjusters, and I have seen them elsewhere. I am very sure there is nothing on Divinington of real value or profit to me, nothing essential to my growth and development, or I should not have been forbidden to go there. Since we can learn little or nothing of the nature and origin of adjusters from Divinington, we are compelled to gather information from 1,001 different sources, and it is necessary to assemble, associate, and correlate this accumulated data in order that such knowledge may be informative. The valor and wisdom exhibited by thought adjusters suggest that they have undergone a training of tremendous scope and range. Since they are not personalities, this training must be imparted in the educational institutions of Divinington. The unique personalized adjusters no doubt constitute the personnel of the adjuster training schools of Divinington, and we do know that this central and supervising corps is presided over by the now personalized adjuster of the first paradise son of the Michael order to complete his 7-fold bestowal upon the races and peoples of his universe realms. We really know very little about the non-personalized adjusters. We only contact and communicate with the personalized orders. These are christened on Divinington and are always known by name and not by number. The personalized adjusters are permanently domiciled on Divinington. That sacred sphere is their home. They go out from that abode only by the will of the Universal Father. Very few are found in the domains of the local universes, but larger numbers are present in the central universe. 4. Nature and presence of adjusters. To say that a thought adjuster is divine is merely to recognize the nature of origin. It is highly probable that such purity of divinity embraces the essence of the potential of all attributes of deity, which can be contained within such a fragment of the absolute essence of the universal presence of the eternal and infinite Paradise Father. The actual source of the adjuster must be infinite, and before fusion with the immortal soul of an evolving mortal, the reality of the adjuster must border on absoluteness. Adjusters are not absolutes in the universal sense, in the deity sense, but they are probably true absolutes within the potentialities of their fragmented nature. They are qualified as to universality, but not as to nature. In extensiveness they are limited, but in intensiveness of meaning, value, and fact, they are absolute. For this reason, we sometimes denominate the divine gifts as the qualified absolute fragments of the Father. No adjuster has ever been disloyal to the Paradise Father. The lower orders of personal creatures may sometimes have to contend with disloyal fellows, but never the adjusters. They are supreme and infallible in their supernal sphere of creature ministry and universe function. Non-personalized adjusters are visible only to personalized adjusters. My order, the solitary messengers, together with inspired Trinity spirits, can detect the presence of adjusters by means of spiritual reactive phenomena, and even seraphim can sometimes discern the spirit luminosity of supposed association with the presence of monitors in the material minds of men. But none of us are able actually to discern the real presence of adjusters, not unless they have been personalized, albeit their natures are perceivable in union with the fused personalities of the ascending mortals from the evolutionary worlds. The universal invisibility of the adjusters is strongly suggestive of their high and exclusive divine origin and nature. There is a characteristic light, a spirit luminosity, which accompanies this divine presence, and which has become generally associated with thought adjusters. In the universe of Nebadon, this paradise luminosity is widespreadly known as the pilot light. On Uversa, it is called the light of life. On Urantia, this phenomenon has sometimes been referred to as that true light which lights every man who comes into the world. To all beings who have attained the Universal Father, the personalized thought adjusters are visible. Adjusters of all stages, together with all other beings, entities, spirits, personalities, and spirit manifestations, are always discernible by those supreme creator personalities who originate in the paradise deities and who preside over the major governments of the grand universe. Can you really realize the true significance of the adjuster's indwelling? Do you really fathom what it means to have an absolute fragment of the absolute and infinite deity, the Universal Father, indwelling and fusing with your finite mortal natures? When mortal man fuses with an actual fragment of the existential cause of the total cosmos, no limit can ever be placed upon the destiny of such an unprecedented and unimaginable partnership. In eternity, man will be discovering not only the infinity of the objective deity, but also the unending potentiality of the subjective fragment of this same God. Always will the adjuster be revealing to the mortal personality the wonder of God, and never can this supernal revelation come to an end, for the adjuster is of God, and as God to mortal man. 5. Adjuster-mindedness. Evolutionary mortals are prone to look upon mind as a cosmic mediation between spirit and matter, for that is indeed the principal ministry of mind as discernible by you. Hence it is quite difficult for humans to perceive that thought adjusters have minds, for adjusters are fragmentations of God on an absolute level of reality, which is not only pre-personal but also prior to all energy and spirit divergence. On a monistic level, antecedent to energy and spirit differentiation, there could be no mediating function of mind, for there are no divergencies to be mediated. Since adjusters can plan, work, and love, they must have powers of selfhood which are commensurate with mind. They are possessed of unlimited ability to communicate with each other, that is, all forms of monitors above the first or virgin groups. As to the nature and purport of their intercommunications, we can reveal very little, for we do not know. And we further know that they must be minded in some manner, else they could never be personalized. The mindedness of the thought adjuster is like the mindedness of the Universal Father and the Eternal Son, that which is ancestral to the minds of the conjoint actor. The type of mind postulated in an adjuster must be similar to the mind endowment of numerous other orders of pre-personal entities, which presumably likewise originate in the first source and center. Though many of these orders have not been revealed on Urantia, they all disclose minded qualities. It is also possible for these individuations of original deity to become unified with numerous evolving types of non-mortal beings, and even with a limited number of non-evolutionary beings who have developed capacity for fusion with such deity fragments. When a thought adjuster is fused with the evolving immortal Urantia soul of the surviving human, the mind of the adjuster can only be identified as persisting apart from the creature's mind until the ascending mortal attains spirit levels of universe progression. Upon the attainment of the finaliter levels of ascendant experience, these spirits of the sixth stage appear to transmute some mind factor representing a union of certain phases of the mortal and adjuster minds which had previously functioned as liaison between the divine and human phases of such ascending personalities. This experiential mind quality probably supremacizes and subsequently augments the experiential endowment of evolutionary deity, the Supreme Being. 6. Adjusters as pure spirits. As thought adjusters are encountered in creature experience, they disclose the presence and leading of a spirit influence. The adjuster is indeed a spirit, pure spirit, but spirit plus. We have never been able satisfactorily to classify mystery monitors. All that can certainly be said of them is that they are truly godlike. The adjuster is man's eternity possibility. Man is the adjuster's personality possibility. Your individual adjusters work to spiritize you in the hope of eternalizing your temporal identity. The adjusters are saturated with the beautiful and self-bestowing love of the Father of Spirits. They truly and divinely love you. They are the prisoners of spirit hope confined within the minds of men. They long for the divinity attainment of your mortal minds that their loneliness may end, that they may be delivered with you from the limitations of material investiture and the habiliments of time. Your path to paradise is the path of spirit attainment, and the adjuster nature will faithfully unfold the revelation of the spiritual nature of the Universal Father. Beyond the paradise ascent and in the post-finaliter stages of the eternal career, the adjuster may possibly contact with the one-time human partner in other than spirit ministry. But the paradise ascent and the finaliter career are the partnership between the God-knowing spiritualizing mortal and the spiritual ministry of the God-revealing adjuster. We know that thought adjusters are spirits, pure spirits, presumably absolute spirits. But the adjuster must also be something more than exclusive spirit reality. In addition to conjectured mindedness, factors of pure energy are also present. If you will remember that God is the source of pure energy and of pure spirit, it will not be so difficult to perceive that his fragments would be both. It is a fact that the adjusters traverse space over the instantaneous and universal gravity circuits of the Paradise Isle. That the mystery monitors are thus associated with the material circuits of the universe of universes is indeed puzzling, but it remains a fact that they flash throughout the entire grand universe over the material gravity circuits. It is entirely possible that they may even penetrate the outer space levels. They certainly could follow the gravity presence of paradise into these regions, and though my order of personality can traverse the mind circuits of the conjoint actor also beyond the confines of the grand universe, we have never been sure of detecting the presence of adjusters in the uncharted regions of outer space. And yet, while the adjusters utilize the material gravity circuits, they are not subject thereto as is material creation. The adjusters are fragments of the ancestor of gravity, not the consequentials of gravity. They have segmentized on a universe level of existence which is hypothetically antecedent to gravity appearance. Thought adjusters have no relaxation from the time of their bestowal until the day of their release to start for Divinington upon the natural death of their mortal subjects. And those whose subjects do not pass through the portals of natural death do not even experience this temporary respite. Thought adjusters do not require energy intake. They are energy, energy of the highest and most divine order. 7. Adjusters and personality. Thought adjusters are not personalities, but they are real entities. They are truly and perfectly individualized, although they are never, while indwelling mortals, actually personalized. Thought adjusters are not true personalities. They are true realities, realities of the purest order known in the universe of universes. They are the divine presence. Though not personal, these marvelous fragments of the Father are commonly referred to as beings and sometimes, in view of the spiritual phases of their present ministry to mortals, as spirit entities. If thought adjusters are not personalities having prerogatives of will and powers of choice, how then can they select mortal subjects and volunteer to indwell these creatures of the evolutionary worlds? This is a question easy to ask, but probably no being in the universe of universes has ever found the exact answer. Even my order of personality, the solitary messengers, does not fully understand the endowment of will, choice, and love in entities that are not personal. We have often speculated that thought adjusters must have volition on all pre-personal levels of choice. They volunteer to indwell human beings, they lay plans for man's eternal career, they adapt, modify, and substitute in accordance with circumstances, and these activities connote genuine volition. They have affection for mortals. They function in universe crises. They are always waiting to act decisively in accordance with human choice. And all these are highly volitional reactions. In all situations not concerned with the domain of the human will, they unquestionably exhibit conduct which betokens the exercise of powers in every sense the equivalent of will, maximated decision. Why, then, if thought adjusters possess volition, are they subservient to the mortal will? We believe it is because adjuster volition, though absolute in nature, is pre-personal in manifestation. Human will functions on the personality level of universe reality, and throughout the cosmos the impersonal, the non-personal, the subpersonal, and the pre-personal is ever responsive to the will and acts of existent personality. Throughout a universe of created beings and non-personal energies, we do not observe will, volition, choice, and love manifested apart from personality. Except in the adjusters and other similar entities, we do not witness these attributes of personality functioning in association with impersonal realities. It would not be correct to designate an adjuster as subpersonal, neither would it be proper to allude to such an entity as superpersonal, but it would be entirely permissible to term such a being prepersonal. To our orders of being, these fragments of deity are known as the divine gifts. We recognize that the adjusters are divine in origin, and that they constitute the probable proof and demonstration of a reservation by the Universal Father of the possibility of direct and unlimited communication with any and all material creatures throughout his virtually infinite realms. And all of this quite apart from his presence in the personalities of his paradise sons, or through his indirect ministrations in the personalities of the infinite Spirit. There are no created beings that would not delight to be hosts to the mystery monitors, but no orders of beings are thus indwelt excepting evolutionary will creatures of finaliter destiny.
Presented by a solitary messenger of Orvantan.
Paper 108. Mission and Ministry of Thought Adjusters. The mission of the thought adjusters to the human races is to represent, to be, the Universal Father to the mortal creatures of time and space. That is the fundamental work of the divine gifts. Their mission is also that of elevating the mortal minds and of translating the immortal souls of men up to the divine heights and spiritual levels of paradise perfection. And in the experience of thus transforming the human nature of the temporal creature into the divine nature of the eternal finaliter, the adjusters bring into existence a unique type of being, a being consisting in the eternal union of the perfect adjuster and the perfected creature which it would be impossible to duplicate by any other universe technique. Nothing in the entire universe can substitute for the fact of experience on non-existential levels. The infinite God is, as always, replete and complete, infinitely inclusive of all things except evil and creature experience. God cannot do wrong. He is infallible. God cannot experientially know what he has never personally experienced. God's pre-knowledge is existential. Therefore does the Spirit of the Father descend from paradise to participate with finite mortals in every bona fide experience of the ascending career. It is only by such a method that the existential God could become in truth and in fact man's experiential Father. The infinity of the eternal God encompasses the potential for finite experience, which indeed becomes actual in the ministry of the adjuster fragments that actually share the life vicissitude experiences of human beings. 1. Selection and assignment. When adjusters are dispatched for mortal service from Divinington, they are identical in the endowment of existential divinity, but they vary in experiential qualities proportional to previous contact in and with evolutionary creatures. We cannot explain the basis of adjuster assignment, but we conjecture that these divine gifts are bestowed in accordance with some wise and efficient policy of eternal fitness of adaptation to the indwelt personality. We do observe that the more experienced adjuster is often the indweller of the higher type of human mind. Human inheritance must therefore be a considerable factor in determining selection and assignment. Although we do not definitely know, we firmly believe that all thought adjusters are volunteers. But before ever they volunteer, they are in possession of full data respecting the candidate for indwelling. The seraphic drafts of ancestry and projected patterns of life conduct are transmitted via paradise to the reserve corps of adjusters on Divinington by the reflectivity technique extending inward from the capitals of the local universes to the headquarters of the super-universes. This forecast covers not only the hereditary antecedents of the mortal candidate, but also the estimate of probable intellectual endowment and spiritual capacity. The adjusters thus volunteer to indwell minds of whose intimate natures they have been fully apprised. The volunteering adjuster is particularly interested in 3 qualifications of the human candidate. 1. Intellectual capacity. Is the mind normal? What is the intellectual potential, the intelligence capacity? Can the individual develop into a bona fide will creature? Will wisdom have an opportunity to function? 2. Spiritual perception. The prospects of reverential development, the birth and growth of the religious nature. What is the potential of soul, the probable spiritual capacity of receptivity? 3. Combined intellectual and spiritual powers. The degree to which these 2 endowments may possibly be associated, combined, so as to produce strength of human character and contribute to the certain evolution of an immortal soul of survival value. With these facts before them, it is our belief that the monitors freely volunteer for assignment. Probably more than one adjuster volunteers. Perhaps the supervising personalized orders select from this group of volunteering adjusters the one best suited to the task of spiritualizing and eternalizing the personality of the mortal candidate. In the assignment and service of the adjusters, the sex of the creature is of no consideration. The short time intervening between the volunteering and the actual dispatch of the adjuster is presumably spent in the Divinington schools of the personalized monitors, where a working pattern of the waiting mortal mind is utilized in instructing the assigned adjuster as to the most effective plans for personality approach and mind spiritization. This mind model is formulated through a combination of data supplied by the Superuniverse Reflectivity Service. At least this is our understanding, a belief which we hold as the result of putting together information secured by contact with many personalized adjusters throughout the long universe careers of the solitary messengers. When once the adjusters are actually dispatched from Divinington, practically no time intervenes between that moment and the hour of their appearance in the minds of their chosen subjects. The average transit time of an adjuster from Divinington to Urantia is 117 hours, 42 minutes, and 7 seconds. Virtually all of this time is occupied with registration on Uversa. 2. Prerequisites of adjuster indwelling. Though the adjusters volunteer for service as soon as the personality forecasts have been relayed to Divinington, they are not actually assigned until the human subjects make their first moral personality decision. The first moral choice of the human child is automatically indicated in the seventh mind adjutant and registers instantly, by way of the local universe creative spirit, over the universal mind gravity circuit of the conjoint actor in the presence of the master spirit of superuniverse jurisdiction, who forthwith dispatches this intelligence to Divinington. Adjusters reach their human subjects on Urantia, on the average, just prior to the 6th birthday. In the present generation, it is running 5 years, 10 months, and 4 days. That is, on the 2134th day of terrestrial life. The adjusters cannot invade the mortal mind until it has been duly prepared by the indwelling ministry of the adjutant mind spirits and encircuited in the Holy Spirit. And it requires the coordinate function of all 7 adjutants to thus qualify the human mind for the reception of an adjuster. Creature mind must exhibit the worship outreach and indicate wisdom function by exhibiting the ability to choose between the emerging values of good and evil, moral choice. Thus is the stage of the human mind set for the reception of adjusters. But, as a general rule, they do not immediately appear to indwell such minds except on those worlds where the Spirit of Truth is functioning as a spiritual coordinator of these different spirit ministries. If this spirit of the bestowal sons is present, the adjusters unfailingly come the instant the 7th adjutant mind spirit begins to function and signalizes to the universe mother spirit that it has achieved in potential the coordination of the associated 6 adjutants of prior ministry to such a mortal intellect. Therefore have the divine adjusters been universally bestowed upon all normal minds of moral status on Urantia ever since the day of Pentecost. Even with the Spirit of Truth endowed mind, the adjusters cannot arbitrarily invade the mortal intellect prior to the appearance of moral decision. But when such a moral decision has been made, this spirit helper assumes jurisdiction direct from Divinington. There are no intermediaries or other intervening authorities or powers functioning between the divine adjusters and their human subjects. God and man are directly related. Before the times of the pouring out of the Spirit of Truth upon the inhabitants of an evolutionary world, the adjuster's bestowal appears to be determined by many spirit influences and personality attitudes. We do not fully comprehend the laws governing such bestowals. We do not understand just what determines the release of the adjusters who have volunteered to indwell such evolving minds. But we do observe numerous influences and conditions which appear to be associated with the arrival of the adjusters in such minds prior to the bestowal of the Spirit of Truth, and they are: 1. The assignment of personal seraphic guardians. If a mortal has not been previously indwelt by an adjuster, the assignment of a personal guardian brings the adjuster forthwith. There exists some very definite but unknown relation between the ministry of adjusters and the ministry of personal seraphic guardians. 2. The attainment of the third circle of intellectual achievement and spiritual attainment. I have observed adjusters arrive in mortal minds upon the conquest of the third circle even before such an accomplishment could be signalized to the local universe personalities concerned with such matters. 3. Upon the making of a supreme decision of unusual spiritual import. Such human behavior in a personal planetary crisis usually is attended by the immediate arrival of the waiting adjuster. 4. The spirit of brotherhood. Regardless of the attainment of the psychic circles and the assignment of personal guardians, in the absence of anything resembling a crisis decision, when an evolving mortal becomes dominated by the love of his fellows and consecrated to unselfish ministry to his brethren in the flesh, the waiting adjuster unvaryingly descends to indwell the mind of such a mortal minister. 5. Declaration of intention to do the will of God. We observe that many mortals on the worlds of space may be apparently in readiness to receive adjusters, and yet the monitors do not appear. We go on watching such creatures as they live from day to day, and presently they quietly, almost unconsciously, arrive at the decision to begin the pursuit of the doing of the will of the Father in heaven, and then we observe the immediate dispatch of the thought adjusters. 6. Influence of the Supreme Being. On worlds where the adjusters do not fuse with the evolving souls of the mortal inhabitants, we observe adjusters sometimes bestowed in response to influences which are wholly beyond our comprehension. We conjecture that such bestowals are determined by some cosmic reflex action originating in the Supreme Being. As to why these adjusters cannot or do not fuse with these certain types of evolving mortal minds, we do not know. Such transactions have never been revealed to us. 3. Organization and administration. As far as we know, adjusters are organized as an independent working unit in the universe of universes and are apparently administered directly from Divinington. They are uniform throughout the 7 superuniverses, all local universes being served by identical types of mystery monitors. We do know from observation that there are numerous series of adjusters involving a serial organization that extends through races, over dispensations, and to worlds, systems, and universes. It is, however, exceedingly difficult to keep track of these divine gifts, since they function interchangeably throughout the grand universe. Adjusters are of complete record, outside of Divinington, only on the headquarters of the 7 superuniverses. The number and order of each adjuster indwelling each ascending creature are reported out by the Paradise authorities to the headquarters of the superuniverse, and from there are communicated to the headquarters of the local universe concerned, and relayed to the particular planet involved. But the local universe records do not disclose the full number of the thought adjusters. The Nebadon records contain only the local universe assignment number as designated by the representatives of the Ancients of Days. The real significance of the adjuster's complete number is known only on Divinington. Human subjects are often known by the numbers of their adjusters. Mortals do not receive real universe names until after adjuster fusion, which union is signalized by the bestowal of the new name upon the new creature by the Destiny Guardian. Though we have the records of thought adjusters in Orvanton, and though we have absolutely no authority over them or administrative connection with them, we firmly believe that there is a very close administrative connection between the individual worlds of the local universes and the central lodgment of the divine gifts on Divinington. We do know that, following the appearance of a Paradise bestowal sun, an evolutionary world has a personalized adjuster assigned to it as the planetary supervisor of adjusters. It is interesting to note that local universe inspectors always address themselves, when carrying out a planetary examination, to the planetary chief of thought adjusters, just as they deliver charges to the chiefs of seraphim and to the leaders of other orders of beings attached to the administration of an evolving world. Not long since, Urantia underwent such a periodic inspection by Tabamancha, the sovereign supervisor of all life experiment planets in the universe of Nebadon. And the records reveal that, in addition to his admonitions and indictments delivered to the various chiefs of superhuman personalities, he also delivered the following acknowledgment to the chief of adjusters. Whether located on the planet, on Salvington, Uversa, or Divinington, we do not definitely know. But he said, "Now to you, superiors far above me, I come as one placed in temporary authority over the experimental planetary series, and I come to express admiration and profound respect for this magnificent group of celestial ministers, the mystery monitors, who have volunteered to serve on this irregular sphere. No matter how trying the crises, you never falter. Not on the records of Nebadon, nor before the commissions of Orvanton, has there ever been offered an indictment of a divine adjuster. You have been true to your trusts. You have been divinely faithful. You have helped to adjust the mistakes and to compensate for the shortcomings of all who labor on this confused planet. You are marvelous beings, guardians of the good in the souls of this backward realm. I pay you respect even while you are apparently under my jurisdiction as volunteer ministers. I bow before you in humble recognition of your exquisite unselfishness, your understanding ministry, and your impartial devotion. You deserve the name of the godlike servers of the mortal inhabitants of this strife-torn, grief-stricken, and disease-afflicted world. I honor you. I all but worship you." As a result of many suggestive lines of evidence, we believe that the adjusters are thoroughly organized, that there exists a profoundly intelligent and efficient directive administration of these divine gifts from some far distant and central source, probably Divinington. We know that they come from Divinington to the worlds, and undoubtedly they return thereto upon the deaths of their subjects. Among the higher spirit orders, it is exceedingly difficult to discover the mechanisms of administration. My order of personalities, while engaged in the prosecution of our specific duties, is undoubtedly unconsciously participating with numerous other personal and impersonal sub-deity groups who unitedly are functioning as far-flung universe correlators. We suspect that we are thus serving because we are the only group of personalized creatures, aside from personalized adjusters, who are uniformly conscious of the presence of numerous orders of the pre-personal entities. We are aware of the presence of the adjusters, who are fragments of the pre-personal deity of the first source and center. We sense the presence of the inspired Trinity spirits, who are superpersonal expressions of the Paradise Trinity. We likewise unfailingly detect the spirit presence of certain unrevealed orders springing from the Eternal Son and the Infinite Spirit. And we are not wholly unresponsive to still other entities unrevealed to you. The Melchizedeks of Nebadon teach that the solitary messengers are the personality coordinators of these various influences as they register in the expanding deity of the evolutionary Supreme Being. It is very possible that we may be participants in the experiential unification of many of the unexplained phenomena of time, but we are not consciously certain of thus functioning. 4. Relation to other spiritual influences. Apart from possible coordination with other deity fragments, the adjusters are quite alone in their sphere of activity in the mortal mind. The mystery monitors eloquently bespeak the fact that, though the Father may have apparently resigned the exercise of all direct personal power and authority throughout the grand universe, notwithstanding this act of abnegation in behalf of the supreme creator children of the Paradise deities, the Father has certainly reserved to himself the unchallengeable right to be present in the minds and souls of his evolving creatures, to the end that he may so act as to draw all creature creation to himself, coordinately with the spiritual gravity of the Paradise Sons. Said your Paradise Bestowal son when yet on Urantia, I, if I am lifted up, will draw all men. This spiritual drawing power of the Paradise Sons and their creative associates we recognize and understand, but we do not so fully comprehend the methods of the all-wise Father's functioning in and through these mystery monitors that live and work so valiantly within the human mind. While not subordinate to, coordinate with, or apparently related to, the work of the universe of universes, though acting independently in the minds of the children of men, unceasingly do these mysterious presences urge the creatures of their indwelling toward divine ideals, always luring them upward toward the purposes and aims of a future and better life. These mystery monitors are continually assisting in the establishment of the spiritual dominion of Michael throughout the universe of Nebadon, while mysteriously contributing to the stabilization of the sovereignty of the Ancients of Days in Orvantan. The adjusters are the will of God, and since the supreme creator children of God also personally embody that same will, it is inevitable that the actions of adjusters and the sovereignty of the universe rulers should be mutually interdependent. Though apparently unconnected, the father presence of the adjusters and the father sovereignty of Michael of Nebadon must be diverse manifestations of the same divinity. Thought adjusters appear to come and go quite independent of any and all other spiritual presences. They seem to function in accordance with universe laws quite apart from those which govern and control the performances of all other spirit influences. But regardless of such apparent independence, long-range observation unquestionably discloses that they function in the human mind in perfect synchrony and coordination with all other spirit ministries, including adjutant mind spirits, Holy Spirit, Spirit of Truth, and other influences. When a world is isolated by rebellion, when a planet is cut off from all outside encircuited communication, as was Urantia after the Caligastia upheaval, aside from personal messengers, there remains but one possibility of direct interplanetary or universe communication, and that is through the liaison of the adjusters of the spheres. No matter what happens on a world or in a universe, the adjusters are never directly concerned. The isolation of a planet in no way affects the adjusters and their ability to communicate with any part of the local universe, superuniverse, or the central universe. And this is the reason why contacts with the supreme and the self-acting adjusters of the Reserve Corps of Destiny are so frequently made on quarantine worlds. Recourse is had to such a technique as a means of circumventing the handicaps of planetary isolation. In recent years, the Archangel Circuit has functioned on Urantia, but that means of communication is largely limited to the transactions of the Archangel Corps itself. We are cognizant of many spirit phenomena in the far-flung universe which we are at a loss fully to understand. We are not yet masters of all that is transpiring about us, and I believe that much of this inscrutable work is wrought by the gravity messengers and certain types of mystery monitors. I do not believe that adjusters are devoted solely to the remaking of mortal minds. I am persuaded that the personalized monitors and other orders of unrevealed pre-personal spirits are representative of the Universal Father's direct and unexplained contact with the creatures of the realms. 5. The Adjuster's Mission. The adjusters accept a difficult assignment when they volunteer to indwell such composite beings as live on Urantia. But they have assumed the task of existing in your minds. They are to receive the admonitions of the spiritual intelligences of the realms and then to undertake to redictate or translate these spiritual messages to the material mind. They are indispensable to the paradise ascension. What the thought adjuster cannot utilize in your present life, those truths which he cannot successfully transmit to the man of his betrothal, he will faithfully preserve for use in the next stage of existence, just as he now carries over from circle to circle those items which he fails to register in the experience of the human subject, owing to the creature's inability or failure to give a sufficient degree of cooperation. One thing you can depend upon: the adjusters will never lose anything committed to their care. Never have we known these spirit helpers to default. Angels and other high types of spirit beings, not excepting the local universe type of sons, may occasionally embrace evil, may sometimes depart from the divine way, but adjusters never falter. They are absolutely dependable, and this is equally true of all 7 groups. Your adjuster is the potential of your new and next order of existence, the advanced bestowal of your eternal sonship with God. By and with the consent of your will, the adjuster has the power to subject the creature trends of the material mind to the transforming actions of the motivations and purposes of the emerging morontial soul. The mystery monitors are not thought helpers, they are thought adjusters. They labor with the material mind for the purpose of constructing, by adjustment and spiritualization, a new mind for the new worlds and the new name of your future career. Their mission chiefly concerns the future life, not this life. They are called heavenly helpers, not earthly helpers. They are not interested in making the mortal career easy. Rather are they concerned in making your life reasonably difficult and rugged, so that decisions will be stimulated and multiplied. The presence of a great thought adjuster does not bestow ease of living and freedom from strenuous thinking, but such a divine gift should confer a sublime peace of mind and a superb tranquility of spirit. Your transient and ever-changing emotions of joy and sorrow are in the main purely human and material reactions to your internal psychic climate and to your external material environment. Do not, therefore, look to the adjuster for selfish consolation and mortal comfort. It is the business of the adjuster to prepare you for the eternal adventure, to assure your survival. It is not the mission of the mystery monitor to smooth your ruffled feelings or to minister to your injured pride. It is the preparation of your soul for the long ascending career that engages the attention and occupies the time of the adjuster. I doubt that I am able to explain to you just what the adjusters do in your minds and for your souls. I do not know that I am fully cognizant of what is really going on in the cosmic association of a divine monitor and a human mind. It is all somewhat of a mystery to us, not as to the plan and purpose, but as to the actual mode of accomplishment. And this is just why we are confronted with such difficulty in finding an appropriate name for these supernal gifts to mortal men. The thought adjusters would like to change your feelings of fear to convictions of love and confidence, but they cannot mechanically and arbitrarily do such things. That is your task. In executing those decisions which deliver you from the fetters of fear, you literally supply the psychic fulcrum on which the adjuster may subsequently apply a spiritual lever of uplifting and advancing illumination. When it comes to the sharp and well-defined conflicts between the higher and lower tendencies of the races, between what really is right or wrong, not merely what you may call right and wrong, you can depend upon it that the adjuster will always participate in some definite and active manner in such experiences. The fact that such adjuster activity may be unconscious to the human partner does not in the least detract from its value and reality. If you have a personal guardian of destiny and should fail of survival, That guardian angel must be adjudicated in order to receive vindication as to the faithful execution of her trust. But thought adjusters are not thus subjected to examination when their subjects fail to survive. We all know that, while an angel might possibly fall short of the perfection of ministry, thought adjusters work in the manner of paradise perfection. Their ministry is characterized by a flawless technique which is beyond the possibility of criticism by any being outside of Divinington. You have perfect guides, therefore is the goal of perfection certainly attainable. 6. God in Man. It is indeed a marvel of divine condescension for the exalted and perfect adjusters to offer themselves for actual existence in the minds of material creatures, such as the mortals of Urantia, really to consummate a probationary union with the animal origin beings of Earth. No matter what the previous status of the inhabitants of a world subsequent to the bestowal of a divine Son and after the bestowal of the Spirit of Truth upon all humans, the adjusters flock to such a world to indwell the minds of all normal will creatures. Following the completion of the mission of a paradise bestowal Son, these monitors truly become the kingdom of heaven within you. Through the bestowal of the divine gifts, the Father makes the closest possible approach to sin and evil, for it is literally true that the adjuster must coexist in the mortal mind, even in the very midst of human unrighteousness. The indwelling adjusters are particularly tormented by those thoughts which are purely sordid and selfish. They are distressed by irreverence for that which is beautiful and divine, and they are virtually thwarted in their work by many of man's foolish animal fears and childish anxieties. The mystery monitors are undoubtedly the bestowal of the universal Father, the reflection of the image of God abroad in the universe. A great teacher once admonished men that they should be renewed in the spirit of their minds, that they become new men who, like God, are created in righteousness and in the completion of truth. The adjuster is the mark of divinity, the presence of God. The image of God does not refer to physical likeness, nor to the circumscribed limitations of material creature endowment, but rather to the gift of the spirit presence of the universal Father in the supernal bestowal of the thought adjusters upon the humble creatures of the universes. The adjuster is the wellspring of spiritual attainment and the hope of divine character within you. He is the power, privilege, and the possibility of survival which so fully and forever distinguishes you from mere animal creatures. He is the higher and truly internal spiritual stimulus of thought, in contrast with the external and physical stimulus which reaches the mind over the nerve energy mechanism of the material body. These faithful custodians of the future career unfailingly duplicate every mental creation with a spiritual counterpart. They are thus slowly and surely recreating you as you really are, only spiritually, for resurrection on the survival worlds. And all of these exquisite spirit recreations are being preserved in the emerging reality of your evolving and immortal soul, your Urantia self. These realities are actually there, notwithstanding that the adjuster is seldom able to exalt these duplicate creations sufficiently to exhibit them to the light of consciousness. And as you are the human parent, so is the adjuster the divine parent of the real you, your higher and advancing self, your better Urantial and future spiritual self. And it is this evolving Urantial soul that the judges and censors discern when they decree your survival and pass you upward to new worlds and never-ending existence in eternal liaison with your faithful partner, God, the adjuster. The adjusters are the eternal ancestors, the divine originals of your evolving immortal souls. They are the unceasing urge that leads man to attempt the mastery of the material and present existence in the light of the spiritual and future career. The monitors are the prisoners of undying hope, the fonts of everlasting progression, and how they do enjoy communicating with their subjects in more or less direct channels. How they rejoice when they can dispense with symbols and other methods of indirection and flash their messages straight to the intellects of their human partners. You humans have begun an endless unfolding of an almost infinite panorama, a limitless expanding of never-ending, ever-widening spheres of opportunity for exhilarating service, matchless adventure, sublime uncertainty, and boundless attainment. When the clouds gather overhead, your faith should accept the fact of the presence of the indwelling adjuster, and thus you should be able to look beyond the mists of mortal uncertainty into the clear shining of the sun of eternal righteousness on the beckoning heights of the mansion worlds of Satania.
Presented by a solitary messenger of Orvantan.
Paper 109. Relation of Adjusters to Universe Creatures. The thought adjusters are the children of the universe career, and indeed the virgin adjusters must gain experience while mortal creatures grow and develop. As the personality of the human child expands for the struggles of evolutionary existence, so does the adjuster wax great in the rehearsals of the next stage of ascending life. As the child acquires adaptive versatility for his adult activities through the social and play life of early childhood, so does the indwelling adjuster achieve skill for the next stage of cosmic life by virtue of the preliminary mortal planning and rehearsing of those activities which have to do with the Urantia career. Human existence constitutes a period of practice which is effectively utilized by the adjuster in preparing for the increased responsibilities and the greater opportunities of a future life. But the adjuster's efforts, while living within you, are not so much concerned with the affairs of temporal life and planetary existence. Today, the thought adjusters are, as it were, rehearsing the realities of the universe career in the evolving minds of human beings. 1. Development of adjusters. There must be a comprehensive and elaborate plan for the training and development of virgin adjusters before they are sent forth from Divinington, but we really do not know very much about it. There undoubtedly also exists an extensive system for retraining adjusters of indwelling experience before they embark upon new missions of mortal association, but again, we do not actually know. I have been told by personalized adjusters that every time a monitor indwelt mortal fails of survival, when the adjuster returns to Divinington, an extended course of training is engaged in. This additional training is made possible by the experience of having indwelt a human being, and it is always imparted before the adjuster is remanded to the evolutionary worlds of time. Actual living experience has no cosmic substitute. The perfection of the divinity of a newly formed thought adjuster does not in any manner endow this mystery monitor with experienced ministrative ability. Experience is inseparable from a living existence. It is the one thing which no amount of divine endowment can absolve you from the necessity of securing by actual living. Therefore, in common with all beings living and functioning within the present sphere of the Supreme, thought adjusters must acquire experience. They must evolve from the lower inexperienced to the higher more experienced groups. Adjusters pass through a definite developmental career in the mortal mind. They achieve a reality of attainment which is eternally theirs. They progressively acquire adjuster skill and ability as a result of any and all contacts with material races, regardless of the survival or non-survival of their particular mortal subjects. They are also equal partners of the human mind in fostering the evolution of the immortal soul of survival capacity. The first stage of adjuster evolution is attained in fusion with the surviving soul of a mortal being. Thus, while you are in nature evolving inward and upward from man to God, the adjusters are in nature evolving outward and downward from God to man. And so will the final product of this union of divinity and humanity eternally be the Son of Man and the Son of God. 2. Self-acting adjusters. You have been informed of the classification of adjusters in relation to experience, virgin, advanced, and supreme. You should also recognize a certain functional classification, the self-acting adjusters. A self-acting adjuster is one who, 1. has had certain requisite experience in the evolving life of a will creature, either as a temporary indweller on a type of world where adjusters are only loaned to mortal subjects, or on an actual fusion planet where the human failed of survival. Such a monitor is either an advanced or a supreme adjuster. 2. Has acquired the balance of spiritual power in a human who has made the third psychic circle and has had assigned to him a personal seraphic guardian. 3. Has a subject who has made the supreme decision, has entered into a solemn and sincere betrothal with the adjuster. The adjuster looks beforehand to the time of actual fusion and reckons the union as an event of fact. 4. Has a subject who has been mustered into one of the reserve corps of destiny on an evolutionary world of mortal ascension. 5. At some time during human sleep has been temporarily detached from the mind of mortal incarceration to perform some exploit of liaison, contact, re-registration, or other extrahuman service associated with the spiritual administration of the world of assignment. 6. Has served in a time of crisis in the experience of some human being who was the material complement of a spirit personality entrusted with the enactment of some cosmic achievement essential to the spiritual economy of the planet. Self-acting adjusters seem to possess a marked degree of will in all matters not involving the human personalities of their immediate indwelling, as is indicated by their numerous exploits both within and without the mortal subjects of attachment. Such adjusters participate in numerous activities of the realm, but more frequently they function as undetected indwellers of the earthly tabernacles of their own choosing. Undoubtedly, these higher and more experienced types of adjusters can communicate with those in other realms. But while self-acting adjusters do thus intercommunicate, they do so only on the levels of their mutual work and for the purpose of preserving custodial data essential to the adjuster ministry of the realms of their sojourn, though on occasions they have been known to function in interplanetary matters during times of crisis. Supreme and self-acting adjusters can leave the human body at will. The indwellers are not an organic or biologic part of mortal life. They are divine superimpositions thereon. In the original life plans, they were provided for, but they are not indispensable to material existence. Nevertheless, it should be recorded that they very rarely, even temporarily, leave their mortal tabernacles after they once take up their indwelling. The superacting adjusters are those who have achieved the conquest of their entrusted tasks and only await the dissolution of the material life vehicle or the translation of the immortal soul. 3. Relation of adjusters to mortal types. The character of the detailed work of mystery monitors varies in accordance with the nature of their assignments as to whether or not they are liaison or fusion adjusters. Some adjusters are merely loaned for the temporal lifetimes of their subjects. Others are bestowed as personality candidates with permission for everlasting fusion if their subjects survive. There is also a slight variation in their work among the different planetary types, as well as in different systems and universes. But on the whole, their labors are remarkably uniform, more so than are the duties of any of the created orders of celestial beings. On certain primitive worlds, the Series 1 group, the adjuster indwells the mind of the creature as an experiential training, chiefly for self-culture and progressive development. Virgin adjusters are usually sent to such worlds during the earlier times when primitive men are arriving in the Valley of Decision, but when comparatively few will elect to ascend the moral heights beyond the hills of self-mastery and character acquirement to attain the higher levels of emerging spirituality. Many, however, who fail of adjuster fusion do survive as spirit-fused ascenders. The adjusters receive valuable training and acquire wonderful experience in transient association with primitive minds, and they are able subsequently to utilize this experience for the benefit of superior beings on other worlds. Nothing of survival value is ever lost in all the wide universe. On another type of world, the Series 2 group, the adjusters are merely loaned to mortal beings. Here, the monitors can never attain fusion personality through such indwelling, but they do afford great help to their human subjects during the mortal lifetime, far more than they are able to give to Urantia mortals. The adjusters are here loaned to the mortal creatures for a single lifespan as patterns for their higher spiritual attainment, temporary helpers in the intriguing task of perfecting a survival character. The adjusters do not return after natural death. These surviving mortals attain eternal life through spirit fusion. On worlds such as Urantia, the Series 3 group, there is a real betrothal with the divine gifts, a life and death engagement. If you survive, there is to be an eternal union, an everlasting fusion, the making of man and adjuster one being. In the three-brained mortals of this series of worlds, the adjusters are able to gain far more actual contact with their subjects during the temporal life than in the one- and two-brain types. But in the career after death, the three-brain type proceed just as do the one-brain type and the two-brained peoples, the Urantia races. On the two-brained worlds, subsequent to the sojourn of a paradise bestowal son, virgin adjusters are seldom assigned to persons who have unquestioned capacity for survival. It is our belief that on such worlds, practically all adjusters indwelling intelligent men and women of survival capacity belong to the advanced or to the supreme type. In many of the evolutionary races of Urantia, three groups of beings existed. There were those who were so animalistic that they were utterly lacking in adjuster capacity. There were those who exhibited undoubted capacity for adjusters and promptly received them when the age of moral responsibility was attained. There was a third class who occupied a borderline position. They had capacity for adjuster reception, but the monitors could only indwell the mind on the personal petition of the individual. But with those beings who are virtually disqualified for survival by disinheritance through the agency of unfit and inferior ancestors, many a virgin adjuster has served a valuable preliminary experience in contacting evolutionary mind, and thus has become better qualified for a subsequent assignment to a higher type of mind on some other world. 4. Adjusters and human personality. The higher forms of intelligent intercommunication between human beings are greatly helped by the indwelling adjusters. Animals do have fellow feelings, but they do not communicate concepts to each other. They can express emotions, but not ideas and ideals. Neither do men of animal origin experience a high type of intellectual intercourse or spiritual communion with their fellows until the thought adjusters have been bestowed, albeit when such evolutionary creatures develop speech, they are on the high road to receiving adjusters. Animals do, in a crude way, communicate with each other, but there is little or no personality in such primitive contact. Adjusters are not personality, they are pre-personal beings. But they do hail from the source of personality, and their presence does augment the qualitative manifestations of human personality. Especially is this true if the adjuster has had previous experience. The type of adjuster has much to do with the potential for expression of the human personality. On down through the ages, many of the great intellectual and spiritual leaders of Urantia have exerted their influence chiefly because of the superiority and previous experience of their indwelling adjusters. The indwelling adjusters have in no small measure cooperated with other spiritual influences in transforming and humanizing the descendants of the primitive men of olden ages. If the adjusters indwelling the minds of the inhabitants of Urantia were to be withdrawn, the world would slowly return to many of the scenes and practices of the men of primitive times. The divine monitors are one of the real potentials of advancing civilization. I have observed a thought adjuster indwelling a mind on Urantia who has, according to the records on Uversa, indwelt 15 minds previously in Orvantan. We do not know whether this monitor has had similar experiences in other superuniverses, but I suspect so. This is a marvelous adjuster and one of the most useful and potent forces on Urantia during this present age. What others have lost in that they refuse to survive, this human being and your whole world now gains. From him who has not survival qualities shall be taken away even that experienced adjuster which he now has, while to him who has survival prospects shall be given even the pre-experienced adjuster of a slothful deserter. In a sense, the adjusters may be fostering a certain degree of planetary cross-fertilization in the domains of truth, beauty, and goodness. But they are seldom given two indwelling experiences on the same planet. There is no adjuster now serving on Urantia who has been on this world previously. I know whereof I speak, since we have their numbers and records in the archives of Uversa. 5. Material handicaps to adjuster indwelling. Supreme and self-acting adjusters are often able to contribute factors of spiritual import to the human mind when it flows freely in the liberated but controlled channels of creative imagination. At such times, and sometimes during sleep, the adjuster is able to arrest the mental currents, to stay the flow, and then to divert the idea procession. And all this is done in order to effect deep spiritual transformations in the higher recesses of the superconsciousness. Thus are the forces and energies of mind more fully adjusted to the key of the contactual tones of the spiritual level of the present and the future. It is sometimes possible to have the mind illuminated, to hear the divine voice that continually speaks within you, so that you may become partially conscious of the wisdom, truth, goodness, and beauty of the potential personality constantly indwelling you. But your unsteady and rapidly shifting mental attitudes often result in thwarting the plans and interrupting the work of the adjusters. Their work is not only interfered with by the innate natures of the mortal races, but this ministry is also greatly retarded by your own preconceived opinions, settled ideas, and long-standing prejudices. Because of these handicaps, many times only their unfinished creations emerge into consciousness, and confusion of concept is inevitable. Therefore, in scrutinizing mental situations, safety lies only in the prompt recognition of each and every thought and experience for just what it actually and fundamentally is, disregarding entirely what it might have been. The great problem of life is the adjustment of the ancestral tendencies of living to the demands of the spiritual urges initiated by the divine presence of the mystery monitor. While in the universe and super-universe careers no man can serve two masters, in the life you now live on Urantia, every man must perforce serve two masters. He must become adept in the art of a continuous human temporal compromise while he yields spiritual allegiance to but one master. And this is why so many falter and fail, grow weary, and succumb to the stress of the evolutionary struggle. While the hereditary legacy of cerebral endowment and that of electrochemical overcontrol both operate to delimit the sphere of efficient adjuster activity, no hereditary handicap in normal minds ever prevents eventual spiritual achievement. Heredity may interfere with the rate of personality conquest, but it does not prevent eventual consummation of the ascendant adventure. If you will cooperate with your adjuster, the divine gift will, sooner or later, evolve the immortal Urantia soul, and subsequent to fusion therewith will present the new creature to the sovereign master sun of the local universe, and eventually to the father of adjusters on Paradise. 6. The persistence of true values. Adjusters never fail. Nothing worth surviving is ever lost. Every meaningful value in every will creature is certain of survival, irrespective of the survival or non-survival of the meaning-discovering or evaluating personality. And so it is, a mortal creature may reject survival. Still, the life experience is not wasted. The eternal adjuster carries the worthwhile features of such an apparent life of failure over into some other world, and there bestows these surviving meanings and values upon some higher type of mortal mind, one of survival capacity. No worthwhile experience ever happens in vain. No true meaning or real value ever perishes. As related to fusion candidates, if a mystery monitor is deserted by the mortal associate, if the human partner declines to pursue the ascending career when released by natural death or prior thereto, the adjuster carries away everything of survival value which has evolved in the mind of that non-surviving creature. If an adjuster should repeatedly fail to attain fusion personality because of the non-survival of successive human subjects, and if this monitor should subsequently be personalized, all the acquired experience of having indwelt and mastered all these mortal minds would become the actual possession of such a newly personalized adjuster, an endowment to be enjoyed and utilized throughout all future ages. A personalized adjuster of this order is a composite assembly of all the survival traits of all his former creature hosts. When adjusters of long universe experience volunteer to indwell divine sons on bestowal missions, they full well know that personality attainment can never be achieved through this service. But often does the Father of Spirits grant personality to these volunteers and establish them as directors of their kind. These are the personalities honored with authority on Divinington, and their unique natures embody the mosaic humanity of their multiple experiences of mortal indwelling, and also the spirit transcript of the human divinity of the Paradise bestowal Son of the terminal indwelling experience. The activities of adjusters in your local universe are directed by the personalized adjuster of Michael of Nebadon, that very monitor who guided him step by step when he lived his human life in the flesh of Joshua ben Joseph. Faithful to his trust was this extraordinary adjuster, and wisely did this valiant monitor direct the human nature, ever guiding the mortal mind of the Paradise Son in the choosing of the path of the Father's perfect will. This adjuster had previously served with Macaventa Melchizedek in the days of Abraham, and had engaged in tremendous exploits both previous to this indwelling and between these bestowal experiences. This adjuster did indeed triumph in Jesus' human mind, that mind which in each of life's recurring situations maintained a consecrated dedication to the Father's will, saying, "Not my will, but yours be done." Such decisive consecration constitutes the true passport from the limitations of human nature to the finality of divine attainment. This same adjuster now reflects in the inscrutable nature of his mighty personality the pre-baptismal humanity of Joshua ben Joseph, the eternal and living transcript of the eternal and living values which the greatest of all Urantians created out of the humble circumstances of a commonplace life as it was lived to the complete exhaustion of the spiritual values attainable in mortal experience. Everything of permanent value which is entrusted to an adjuster is assured eternal survival. In certain instances, the monitor holds these possessions for bestowal on a mortal mind of future indwelling. In others, and upon personalization, these surviving and conserved realities are held in trust for future utilization in the service of the architects of the master universe. 7. Destiny of personalized adjusters. We cannot state whether or not non-adjuster father fragments are personalizable, but you have been informed that personality is the sovereign free will bestowal of the Universal Father. As far as we know, the adjuster type of father fragment attains personality only by the acquirement of personal attributes through service ministry to a personal being. These personalized adjusters are at home on Divinington, where they instruct and direct their pre-personal associates. Personalized thought adjusters are the untrammeled, unassigned, and sovereign stabilizers and compensators of the far-flung universe of universes. They combine the creator and creature experience, existential and experiential. They are conjoint time and eternity beings. They associate the pre-personal and the personal in universe administration. Personalized adjusters are the all-wise and powerful executives of the architects of the master universe. They are the personal agents of the full ministry of the Universal Father, personal, pre-personal, and superpersonal. They are the personal ministers of the extraordinary, the unusual, and the unexpected throughout all the realms of the transcendental absonite spheres of the domain of God the Ultimate, even to the levels of God the Absolute. They are the exclusive beings of the universes who embrace within their being all the known relationships of personality. They are omnipersonal. They are before personality, they are personality, and they are after personality. They minister the personality of the Universal Father as in the eternal past, the eternal present, and the eternal future. Existential personality on the order of the infinite and absolute, the Father bestowed upon the eternal Son. But he chose to reserve for his own ministry the experiential personality of the type of the personalized adjuster bestowed upon the existential pre-personal adjuster. And they are thus both destined to the future eternal superpersonality of the transcendental ministry of the absonite realms of the ultimate, the supreme ultimate, even to the levels of the ultimate absolute. Seldom are the personalized adjusters seen at large in the universes. Occasionally they consult with the Ancients of Days, and sometimes the personalized adjusters of the sevenfold Creator Sons come to the headquarters worlds of the constellations to confer with the Verandadek rulers. When the planetary Verandadek observer of Urantia, the Most High Custodian who not long since assumed an emergency regency of your world, asserted his authority in the presence of the resident Governor-General, he began his emergency administration of Urantia with a full staff of his own choosing. He immediately assigned to all his associates and assistants their planetary duties. But he did not choose the 3 personalized adjusters who appeared in his presence the instant he assumed the regency. He did not even know they would thus appear, for they did not so manifest their divine presence at the time of a previous regency. And the Most High Regent did not assign service or designate duties for these volunteer personalized adjusters. Nevertheless, these 3 omnipersonal beings were among the most active of the numerous orders of celestial beings then serving on Urantia. Personalized adjusters perform a wide range of services for numerous orders of universe personalities. But we are not permitted to discuss these ministries with adjuster-indwelt evolutionary creatures. These extraordinary human divinities are among the most remarkable personalities of the entire grand universe, and no one dares to predict what their future missions may be.
Presented by a solitary messenger of Orvantan.